Now let's talk about the UFC's dumping ground. Seems to be like an awful lot of ex-athletes from other sports in the UFC. From football, pro wrestling. That makes it real legit, doesn't it? There's a whole list of ex football players. I think there's like 20 people for pro wrestling actually in the UFC now. Some of the better ones like Ken Shamrock. Some of these I never heard of. But 20 of them. Imagine 20 crossing over. Why? They're making more money as pro wrestlers. Why would they do that? A lot of Japanese ones crossed over. Have they gotten any, is it going to raise the popularity of UFC if pro wrestlers are in it? Like Brock Lesnar? It didn't, did it really? It's just, and football players too, there's like 10 of them that crossed over. Most notable one was Herschel Walker. He didn't fare too well. I guess it's because they think they can street fight. I mean, they look at it and it does look like a street fight. So they get in there and they start punching and throwing punches and kicks. Where does it end up? It ends up with them looking like fools. I mean, all UFC fighters look like fools anyway, but if you're getting one from another sport, especially pro wrestling, I mean, some of these guys are better at faking it than they actually are at real fighting. Let's see, there haven't been many boxers though that have crossed over. There's been a few. I think the boxers know the difference between something that has a skill and something that doesn't have a skill. This is why football players and pro wrestlers cross over, I think, is because the skill isn't there anyway. You don't have to have great skills, I don't think, to get into the UFC or MMA. Especially for the women, like I touched on before. You don't need great skills. Boxers, though, I think they know the difference. That's just why they stick to boxing. I know some will say, well, they can't fight on the ground. Well, I'll give you a hint. Even UFC fighters can't really fight on the ground. Well, some of them can, who know submission holds, but other than that, it's just a street fight on the ground. And no, boxers aren't trained to street fight. They're trained with skills. Although I think some would do better if they learned how to throw punches better on the ground. And it can be done. You can block punches better too on the ground. But I think what happens to a boxer when he gets taken off his feet, he panics. There's no really reason to do that. You can block punches. Almost as easy as you can standing up. Getting back to the pro wrestling, though, I think it's kind of funny that you actually have UFC fighters going into pro wrestling too. They go in there to fake it. Why? Well, I know the money probably. I think WWE pays a lot better. But this just shows the lack of skill that really is involved in this UFC and MMA when you have so many different athletes from, well, I say different athletes, but so many athletes from a certain sport like football and wrestling going into this. And why is that? Why don't you see people who are actually martial artists in it, like K1 fighters or fighters that participate in Taekwondo tournaments, for example? You don't see many of those in there. There might be a few scattered here and there, but the majority of them are, like I said in my other video, It's people walking, they're street thugs. People who are involved, truly involved in martial arts, know the difference between this and a true fighting style. They don't want to get involved with that. I don't blame them, really, because it looks foolish. But people do like it, though. A lot of people like it. It's really going back to the Roman gladiator days, isn't it? Well, that's where our society's been headed anyway. So why not this? Anyway, I'm going to be making more videos later on. Feel free to comment and rate. I'll see you all later.